let's say I just coded a fancy new application, and the way this application works is I can take a picture of somebody and send it over the network to another person. Oops. This person has curly hair. I don't know why I'm doing these pictures. All right. This person has a triangle head. Okay. So this person takes a picture. Oops, that's their phone. I don't know why I'm making this so complicated. Anyway, and they want to send this file, this lovely picture, to this other person. So, on their phone or on their PC, whatever they're using, what's going to happen is we first start with the picture. It is formed into bits. So now we got digits that are the picture. We're okay with the digital picture, right? The application layer is going to take that data and pass it down. What number was application layer? 5. I will sometimes use application and I will sometimes use layer 5. Get used to it. There won't be a question on the test that is, what is layer 5? Get used to that too. So that's, anyway. So the application layer, remember I told you, all you do in your application is you say open connection. Your application is going to pass that data down to the next layer. The next layer is the transport layer, and it will add on a header. I'm just going to put TCP here because that's a common transport layer protocol. Okay? What was the purpose of the transport layer? Do y'all remember? It's what application does it go to, okay? So I am in the picture sending application. The data in here says what application it goes to, among other things. All right? So this data is helping it get it to the right application. The transport layer, is it time to send it yet? No. The transport layer is going to pass it down to the next layer, which is what's the next layer down? What? You gotta say it louder, man. It's the internet layer, because I have to gauge, I don't know, whatever, TV land. All right, the internet layer is now going to add on some of its own data. I put an IP there. So this one says TCP, this one is IP. And notice here it just adds data onto it. This needs to add data on. What was one of the functions of the internet layer? Do you guys remember? What sort of data do we need to add? What? Okay. So this is what subnet? Okay. It will tell it what subnet I'm on. So where is it coming from? And then it'll tell them what subnet it needs to go to. This app is the same way. What application is it coming from, and what application does it need to go to? I'm just giving you examples of what needs to go. You guys remember this is metadata, right? So I got the data, which is just the picture. There's probably something that adds too, but the picture and everything else. And then we need to add this other data to get it where it's going. Not done yet. One more layer, or still another layer, which is data link. Now it's going to be, I've still got my data. I've got a TCP. Now I have an IP. Now we need to add an Ethernet. Okay? So I'm using my Wi-Fi network. Because if I was using the phone network, what have I got to do? It's not Ethernet anymore. It's some other protocol that gets me through the phone towers. We good with this? If I'm on LTE or 3G or whatever else I'm doing. Ethernet, just so you know, also has a trailer. But if I was sending it over LTE, that only has a header. Get used to it. This tells me this is like the host on a subnet. It's really device on a subnet, but that's where. So it's where it's going on the subnet. This is just to check for errors. All right, next layer down. Physical. What do you think a physical layer frame looks like? Ah, that's a trick question. You know there's always a trick question. Where is it down here? Thought I had it. On the truck. The trick is right here. Physical layer is bit by bit transmission. And if you looked at this, right, we got this digital picture, we added a TCP header, an IP header, an Ethernet header, and a trailer. Like, what have I got here? Is this a lot of letters and numbers? It's a whole bunch of zeros and ones. You guys following me here? It's all zeros and ones. This is a computer, for goodness sake, right? This is zeros and ones. This is zeros and ones. When we actually start talking about it, these might look, you know, there might be fields that we see as fields, but the computer, this is all zeros and ones. Okay? This is going to go into, for example, if we're on a cable, there's going to be changes in voltages. I don't know, I'm not doing this right, but that's all right. Okay? They're going to be detected at the other device. Okay? So here I had a port, right? Oops, I didn't plug. Oh, anyway, this is plugged into a port. When it gets over here, there's another port. And the physical layer is going to sense the ones and zeros. Then it's going to pass the ones and zeros up to the data link layer, and the data link layer is going to see a frame. Sense 1 and 0. So now we have a frame again. Isn't this fun? What comes out of here? Well, out of here we're going to get out the data again. This one will have the TCP and the IP. All right? The internet layer is going to say, oh, is this us? It's going to look at the destination and make sure it's for you. It's going to look at the destination here and make sure it's for you. The TCP layer is going to look at what app it is, and it's going to send it to the right app. And then the app will display it in a lovely color picture on the other person's phone. It's supposed to be blowing your mind, right? Either I explained it really well or you don't get it, right? The process over here, the sending host does what's called encapsulation. Encapsulation. So this process of putting an application layer message inside a TCP segment, inside an IP packet, inside an Ethernet frame, then transmitting it, we call that encapsulation because it's kind of putting stuff inside. Follow that? When we come back up, the receiver is what we call de-encapsulation. So they're basically unpacking it. It's like a little package, right? So this was like the letter. It goes in an envelope. It goes in a box. It goes in a truck. The truck drives over a certain road. You take it out of the, the truck comes in. We take it out, take the box out of the truck, take the envelope out of the box, and take the letter out, and then we get to read it. So encapsulation and de-encapsulation. And that happens all over the network. All right? I want to note all along here, we are going to check, especially the receiver, we need to make sure they check for errors. This is where the ones and zeros come up to the Ethernet layer. It's going to check for errors first. If there's any errors, what's it going to do? It's going to stop. We're going to not, we just stop. We don't pass it up, because if it has errors in it, it has errors in it, it's not going to work. This one checks for errors. Sure enough, it gets up here. This one will still check for errors too. Everybody checks for errors along the way. Sometimes the applications even do it, but usually an application kind of assumes it gets clean data. But everyone checks for errors as it goes up. If there's an error in it, it doesn't pass it up.